Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. JCTV for the culture talk. And man, today I've been it's been a combination of things the last week. I've been a little bit under the weather, but I did actually it seems like I've been gone longer than I really have because I had a baby King. I did a baby King live stream Thursday when he dropped his new music and I messed around and left. I think we had some it was either the hillbillies or family ties in there and they clipped the whole video. Like I saw Read My Soul, bunch of other people, creators, they lost their king content. So they pulled the whole thing down. They didn't even give me a chance. Sometimes they'll give me a chance to clean it up, to either mute it, take something out, or just do whatever to it. They just said, "Nah, we're gonna take that." They just took the whole thing down. Excuse me. Yeah, they just took it down. So and then after that, I that's when right after this is when the what we here to talk about today. The tip T.I. Clifford Harris family, because I can't just say tip. I'm gonna get into my man King, my boy King, my boy Damani entered the chat today. And Curtis Boo Boo Jackson. And that's been and I knew kind of how this was gonna go. It's been fast and furious, and me, I'm always like I like to let it play out a little bit. Shout out to everybody who does the everyday videos. I can't. I haven't gotten to the point where I even uh, motivated to do it every day like that to cover rapid fire. It depends. I'm getting there, but I'm still young to my channel and the content creation. So I tend to think it through a little bit. I probably overthink it a little bit. I gotta just jump. I'm working on that. That's some personal development I'm working on as with my channel and with content creation. And I've been working on some other stuff for other people with some production stuff. So, but I've been watching. I've definitely been watching Clifford Harris put belt to Curtis Boo Boo Jackson's ass. And again, I'd be remiss if I did not mention King. And everybody knows. Hold up, stop. Let me back up. And I said I wasn't gonna do it, but I got drawn into the conversation. Before I get to the beef and where we are, because there's been of course, the narrative spin is that it's clout. This is from the 50 camp and the other people. The how people support Curtis Boo Boo Jackson, I do not know. I'm gonna talk a little bit about that, and I'm gonna have multiple conversations. I was just me and OTS Mike were going back and forth a little bit earlier. He knows what 50 is, but I still think he's blinded by his East Coast allegiance a little bit because he's trying to. I'm not gonna say this because he's not here to clarify or defend his point, but others are still defending or rationalizing or trying to explain Boo Boo's actions and why he does what he does and why he doesn't have to do certain things and why it's a whole bunch of just tomfoolery, if you ask me. But anyway, I didn't want to lead with that, just like I with J. Cole when I did my J. Cole. I want to lead with love. I want to because there's this misperception that Tip is doing this to get motion. Let them know dropped a month ago. It was already like critical acclaim. I'm not gonna. I hate talking about charts and stuff, but you have to these days. That's the only language some people understand. You have to talk about charts. Let me tilt my A hat, my A cap. So real Atlanta theme today. But it was already doing it. And outside of the charts, you hear people playing it, you see people talking about it. It's getting critical acclaim. It was already doing it. It was already like on its way, and the weather hadn't changed yet. Because I had initially thought he may have dropped it a little too early, But I think he dropped it right on time because he gave people time to hear it. Now it's starting to warm up. It's a slow burn, and then it's just gonna take off. When spring break, you're gonna hear this. Whoever you're gonna hear your kids playing at spring break. You're gonna hear it wherever you go. Spring break. If you travel, there's kids around. You're gonna hear it during spring break. It's one of those songs. He didn't need anybody else to get any motion. And that's the part I'm like, why are y'all doing this? Why we got to go through this? Oh, he's only doing it to get motion. I saw somebody say he's trying to, and this is a double. I don't get it. He's trying to get the Kendrick stimulus package with the beef. Kendrick didn't need a stimulus package. He was already crazy successful. Clifford Harris does not need a stimulus package. And he's not the one who started this. We're gonna talk about how we end up getting there. But before we do that, I just want to let y'all know this is what I'm not gonna play the whole thing because you're not gonna get me 2 times in a row, YouTube. But I am because I'm discussing it and talking about it. It's not just me playing the video. This is what we're talking about was already out before the beef even started.
What inspires me most as an artist? Life. Ran into the
And yeah, that officially drops tomorrow. Everybody check that out because again, we saw. Actually, I think they were on the set when he was doing $1 million worth of game. They were on set where they were finishing up either filming it or working on it, whatever the case may be. But I think that full length fully it drops tomorrow. Let me get this other stuff teed up. I want to get the conversation going. Now that I got that out of the way, where's the right one? I need to go right to his page. Oh no, yeah, there we go. So the narrative, this whole thing about he's just doing this for clout. I hate even saying that. He's just doing it to get attention. He's doing it for a rollout. I'm trying to pick where I want to talk about 50 with that situation because I think this is a good. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just say it now because, and I'm gonna refer to it again later. And this is people fans of a person who's saying this that he's just doing it for clout, doing it for a rollout. Mind you, Boo Boo Jackson. Let's go back to Boo Boo Jackson before he dropped Get Rich or Die Trying, Power of a Dollar. He was getting a little bit of buzz, but let's think back to what gave him, why do we even know? Or how did we, I'm not gonna say why, he's talented. I'm not gonna do that to him. But how did we first come to know 50 Boo Boo Jackson? How to Rob. I remember when How to Rob dropped. I remember when it came out. I'm like, who is this? What is this? He had everybody talking. And he did it for that reason. That was the clout. Like, if you want to talk about, if you want to know, give somebody an example, they don't know what clout chasing is. If you have somebody that's just, not culturally aware, they don't understand, they don't know the lingo, they're just not plugged in that way. And they ask you, excuse me, or use cloud chasing in a sentence, or give me an example of what cloud chase is. If you ask me to do it, would give you Curtis Boo Boo Jackson's How to Rob as the biggest, probably the first cloud chase and the biggest cloud chase in hip hop history. Because All he did was it was for attention. He the who he was robbing, and at that time, to talk about, like, now it seems crazy. It doesn't seem like the shock value is gone, but for artists, for rappers especially, their reputation. You talk about somebody robbing them. That meant that he had people looking for him after that. They had to have people say, "Hey, hold on, it's just a song. He didn't really mean it." That's like at the time that dropped. That's the seriousness of that situation and the clout chase that it was. Talking about the R&B artists, the females that he talked about, just the whole attention grab. So this is the person that you're a fan of, that you're using Tip trying to calling him a clout chaser because he's talking about that guy. That was just the start of his clout chasing. It was just the start. He had more in the tank. He had more because now I'm not saying he went out and purposely tried to get shot. Not saying that. But I don't think once he survived, he didn't mind talking about him getting shot. He played that up. He got his Tupac stimulus. His I got shot, I'm a tough guy. This and he parlayed that into a certain image. That's not the biggest clout chase in the world. Like I said, he didn't do it on purpose, but he did use it. He did use it. Then that started a lot. The shooting itself is the root of most of his clout. The next few years of clout chasing that he would do. This man made a whole, and this is getting to they're talking about Ti and how he's now as of this recording. And I was sitting there as I started to record this, the money dropped. But as of this recording, Tip has dropped one warning shot, which was war, and three just etched in your face diss records. So people are saying that's too much. And the short attention span people are saying he's dragging it. Hadn't been a full week, but he's dragging it. That terminology came into play when, of course, with Kendrick and whoever was like, he's dragging it. It hadn't even been a week. He's still fresh on that boy's head top. Leave him alone. He's still working. Him and the Harris family still at work. Let him be. But I'm gonna tell you why it's okay with me. I do like to call out people for dragging stuff, or it can be too much. You can do whatever. You can cross the line. Nothing that the Harris family is doing is too much. It's crossing the line because of. I'm gonna get back to Boo Boo and tell you why it's not too much or crossing the line. He made a whole ass mixtape getting that Murder Inc., Irv, rest in peace, and anybody that was standing next to him. Whole mixtape. Whole album talking about that. Of course, attention spans weren't short back then, so wasn't dragging it. Nobody said he was dragging it. Nobody said it was too much. It was just him being him, and that was part of his persona that he was building. And by that time, had cemented what he was. So, but let's talk about. I want to get more specific about, but high level. This man continued to do that throughout his career. He made a whole mixtape about Ja, and then every time he would drop an album, he found a beef with somebody. He would go if there wasn't a legit one, he would go create one. Every time he dropped. Every time he dropped. Literally every time he dropped an album, he went, if we're using what the standards, what people, his folks are trying to say today, he started clout chasing every time. Now, Get Rich or Die Trying did what it did, went crazy. But he fell off the cliff. He fell off the cliff quality wise right after that. And even now, Get Rich doesn't even, it does. We do this thing with the how does it age and how does it hold up. It's not holding up well. But it was successful. Sold what it sold. He became a fixture. But that started a sharp, sharp decline. And he saw it. He knew it. His pen was running out of ink. His head was running out of ideas. And he had to continue to create these beefs and this friction in these situations to try to survive. And like Tip mentioned in one of the songs that we're talking, the right one. Think about like this was 2000s, whatever year that Curtis came out. I think it was, yeah, it was 2007. Or was it before I self destruct? Whichever album, I have to go back and verify whether he picked the beef with Kanye. And Kanye, this was full fledged. He's an anomaly at the time. He's wearing sweaters. He's a not a street dude. He's not full blown Kanye yet. He's not the mega star icon that he would become yet. This was part of what got him there. And 50 was the sale king before that. Created a beef with Kanye out of nowhere and lost. But I digress on that. He just and then after that, he just became the troll king, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But I really want to get to, and then again, keeping with talking about this narrative. Sorry for the narrative that people are trying to like. Tip just he brought it like he keeps saying it like this just didn't pop out of nowhere because people keep even when they say it didn't come out of nowhere, they keep only going back to the pandemic when the Verzuz idea first came up. Even that's a long time. That's 6 years ago. But it goes back further than that. It goes back much further than that. It goes back further, and I understand it when we talk about why it's more. This is like personal for Tip, and why it's not just. This isn't just a rollout, or this isn't a rollout, or this is some sort of clout chase. You'll understand people with morals, people stand up people who are not who didn't come of age in this internet social media age that's a little bit got a little bit more understanding. And some of those get it too. I don't want to blanket the whole generation. Some of them get it too. But this is for people who grew up. This is pre-blog era during the early 2000s when it was still people were still touching grass. People were still going to the clubs. People were still outside. People had to you had to see people. If you said something to them or about them, you still had to see them. This goes back to that era, but this also it started Curtis Boo Boo's Mitchness. You could see it come out a long time ago. So these two got like I didn't realize this till I was doing some of my just getting ready for this the research. I knew there was a bunch of overlap. I knew it was similar times, but I didn't realize that Get Rich and trap music dropped the same year, 2003. And I know Tip dropped Urban Legend the next year. So and again, Get Rich, Diamond, I think it's globally 12 million. So and at the time and for a long time, that's just sales. For a long time, it still had some critical acclaim. It has some it has an iconic song. It has the Dre influence. It still has some M influence, but it's still not holding up. But it not taken away from it. It was a cultural phenomenon. It took 50 to a place. And then that same year, Tip drops trap music. And some people might argue this, but the term trap and trap music started right there. If it didn't start right there, that was the very front end of it, and it took it to a level. I don't care if somebody said it first, they may have, or somebody even may have used it first, but you didn't put out trap music that did what this album did. And also, that was the first time Tip had worked with Skateboard P with Pharrell. Worked with Kanye on that album. Um, Great album. But you had the dynamics of the South still in the early stages of having something to say, but not people not fully listening yet. There was that chip on the shoulder of and if you really want to be honest, a lot of Ti's chip on his shoulder, I think is rooted in that because I, he for what he was doing and his peers in the South were doing at that time, they still had to fight through. It was 96 when the South had something to say. Comment was made. Or 94. That was 94 when the South had something to say comment was made. And then you're still talking about early 2000s. The South was early and it's about to take over its dominance, and but people are still fighting it. People still questioning it. People still minimizing people like Ti, the king of the South. And when he claimed it, nobody argued about it. Nobody fought him over it. Nobody did a thing. Tip said he was the king of the South. He's been the king of the South since then. But those two albums, I think, again, they didn't have any direct beef or any direct issues or anything at the time, but I think that kind of started. And I think that's why he keeps calling him out, why it was so important for Tip to do that versus with 50, which I've said it over and over. I think he smokes 50 in that. The why it was so important because New York is the Mecca. New York created this thing that we love, hip hop, and everybody else still chases validation from New York. No matter how successful everybody becomes, no matter how long Atlanta, the South runs hip hop or ran hip hop, that reign is over. Everybody still chases or wants that validation from New York, and when you don't get it, you remember that. And I think too, he felt like in the early 2000s, he didn't get it. And it may not have been 50 directly, but 50 was the biggest one at the time. And that may have been part of the reason why. So it started there. And then, you keep going to 2007. You had Ti versus Tip. Tip at the time is fish grease. He's hot. Tip had a heck of a run during the 2000s. He had a heck of a run. And after, because that's when it really starts to settle. Then there's more of a comparison. Like you can't the bulk of, I think Boo Boo has 30 million or so, high 20s records sold. Clifford has about half of that, 15, 16, 17, somewhere. But you pull How to Rob out of, I'm not How to Rob, Get Rich or Die Trying out of that, that's 10, 12 million right there. So everything else from after that point was like it's blow for blow at that point. And it's still that there's no words between them, but there's direct competition. Now, was it 2008? 2008 was the first time that this is where you can draw the direct line to, I think, what you saw this week. You go back to 2008. And this was, and I will say Tip, and I don't know what prompted him to say this because he typically doesn't start these things. But he did say something about 50 just being leading with negativity. And that's what I talked about in part of the lead up. His cloud chasing, his beef starting, his going at everybody. And this is what they broke him down with this week too, about kicking people when they're down, doing that sort of thing. So, and I have to go back and look. I don't know if he was asked the question or if he got tired of it. He did say something about feeding the negativity just for no reason, just to do it for your rollout. So, and then that's the same year Ti had a little bit of legal trouble. that started the snitch allegations, that started this whole thing that there's been no proof for, and nobody's produced. He's not the first person to say it, and but he brought that up. This is around the same. 50 used it, but he also brought up the situation because he had the gun case first with the jail for a little bit, and I'm trying to see how many years apart that was. Let me see. Yeah, so he had the gun case first because I know he was going to the BET Awards, and then that happened. Yeah, he was in Ohio. He had the gun case. He did his year. He got up, and then 50 started do. That's when he really started to do his thing about sticking his nose into people's business, was kicking somebody when they're down because he started to talk about the gun case and him going to jail. Like this was unheard of at the time in hip hop and in rap. But 50's like another person that I just don't even like talking about, and I don't want to do the sound like he's like Aubrey a lot to where he's not real hip. He doesn't understand the core of hip hop, so they move a certain way. He started to just talk about this man going to jail. Then he started the rat accusations about he snitched on somebody to get a lighter sentence. Now, and when Tip got out, 2009, they ran into each other at the BET Awards. They ran into each other at the BET Awards, and from what I understand, Tip ran up on him like, "Hey, like basically like, whatever you've had to say about me, or you have to say about me, what I'm saying, say it now." He confronted him. Security broke it up, and that was really the first confrontation that they had, like direct. And it's it's still, like I said, it's still going on today. But even if you look at, let me see, 2010, 2011, that's when he also went to like that's when they got popped when Tiny got arrested. But Tip ended up going to jail for it. And this is where he started the direct confrontation with his wife. He said she should have taken the charge. Curtis, Boo Boo said it, that Tiny should have taken the charge because Tip had just gone to jail a couple years before. She should have taken the charge. And then he checked him again. It's like, only a sucker would let his wife go to jail and take a charge for me. And that just showed you his character for even saying that, for even putting it out there like that. But Tip checked him for it. So now it's the back and forth. That's really when it heated up. They started going. Now, and they did. And this is where a couple years later, this is what makes it so much weirder. So something must have happened between 11 and 12, 13, 14, somewhere, where they had it was just like a cold period. It was just like, I don't think they were real cool at first, but then something happened where they got running around in same circles or same people. Somebody must have sat them down, had them talk to each other. I don't know. But we've all seen I wish I could pull it up right now. I have to go searching for it. I'll try to include that in the final. But there's a certain point, and we've all seen the clip where it was Tip, Jay, Sean Combs, Kanye, Pharrell was there, and 50 was there. That was the night, King of the South. He shouted out the King of New York. And I do think that was a subtle jet. 50 may not have picked up on that, but you got 50 and Jay on the stage, and he's going out of his way to call Jay the King of New York. But I digress. Maybe didn't take it that way, but it seemed like everything was okay. Because I know I've heard Joe Budden and others talk about, no, not Joe, it was Ice, saying that 50 haven't messed with him for a long time. He never messed with him. So this shouldn't be a surprise what's happening now. It's not true. They did have a period in that couple years from 12 to 15, 16 or so, that it seemed like they had, at the very least, buried any hatchet that they had because they were on the same stage with each other. Didn't hear any more shots. Nobody was talking. Nothing was said publicly or part. You didn't hear anything about them having any issues or any beef anymore. So you fast forward to the pandemic. And this is everybody. I'm not gonna give a Verzuz talk. Everybody knows what the Verzuz meant to everybody. Anything like that, because we're trapped in the house. I must tell you, I was just thinking about the pandemic the other day. I still have to sit and remind myself that it even happened. Because it for one, it seems like it was so long ago. And while we were in it, I didn't think it was gonna ever end. Ever. Like, well, this is it. This is all of it. This is what it's gonna be for the rest of the world. So it was only like 6 years ago. Actually, when we got out of it, kind of it was 21. It was 5 years ago. It's only 5 years ago. That's another thing when people. I'm not gonna get into Kendrick right now, but so when Verzuz popped off, and this is where Tip talk. Let me see if I can find that story. I do want to share that. Let's see. Let's see. I don't want the whole. Yeah, here we go. So let me let Tip give up what happened.
Okay, so first, like, it was really about celebrating each other's catalog. Me and that nigga talk back there, bro. This shit, I ain't just called a nigga out the blue.
Yeah.
Me and that nigga talk back there.
You talking about you were 50?
Yeah, man. We talk about this shit, man. This shit just come out of nowhere.
All right.
Nigga, we were moving around in LA, man, selling some TV shows and shit while we were around each other, man. You know what I mean? I said, shit, what you think about this? He was like, shit, you want to do that shit? I said, yeah. He was like, all right, cool. So shit. And I told him, I said, well, I'm gonna jump out there first, and then you just gonna jump out there and we'll line it up. And he said, all right. And when I jump out there, nigga act like he ain't know what the fuck was going on. Then that's what it was about. You know what I'm saying? Now, it about, oh, you playing? Okay, you gonna play. All right, cool. Well, how about fuck all of it? Fuck all of it. I don't even want you.
Yo, pull.
Okay, so first, like, it was really about celebrating each other's catalog. Me and that nigga talk back there, bro. This shit, I ain't just called a nigga out the blue.
Yeah.
Me and that nigga talk back there.
You talking about you were 50?
Yeah, man. We talk about this shit, man. This shit just come out of nowhere.
All right.
Nigga, we were moving around in LA, man, selling some TV shows and shit while we were around each other, man. You know what I mean? I said, shit, what you think about this? He was like, shit, you want to do that shit? I said, yeah.
First of all, why is Gilly looking like that? It's like, but I do want to stop right there and jump in because that's again to get to the narrative of what I keep hearing people say, like it just came out of the blue. Even if you take away that prior history I just gave and talk about 5-6 years ago, it's not clout chasing if I'm gonna take Tip at his word that, and I will give Joe credit for this point. I'm about to give this my point, and then I'm gonna what he said about it. That when him and there was, but this gets also to the point of they had mended whatever fences were broken before, because they weren't just out there shopping different movies or shows in LA and just bumping into each other. It was the same projects. Some of it was the same project where I think 50 was a producer and Tip would have also been a producer, but he would have also been in it. So they were working together on a project, shopping stuff around. So you're not doing that with somebody if you've got real beef with them. Not these two dudes, not either one of them. You're not doing that if you don't think you've gotten over whatever hump you had before. So
he was like, all right, cool. So shit. And I told him, I said, well, I'm gonna jump out there first, and then you just gonna jump out there and we'll line it up. And he said, all right. And when I jump out there, nigga act like he ain't know what the fuck was going on. Then that's what it was about. You know what I'm saying? Now, it about, oh, you playing? Okay, you gonna play. All right, cool. Well, how about fuck all of it?
And see, that's what Joe said, but and I can see his point, where he said there was some Hollywood talk. And I think the type of person that Tip is, he didn't understand that that was Hollywood talk. If that's what happened, if that's where it went down, I don't think he understood that that was just, hey, yeah, man, let's do it. Because you're out there. It's not that they just ran into each other and bumped into each other. They were working on a project together. So if you say we're doing that together, and you say let's go get this together, that's promoting cross pollination. You can use their verses to promote whatever project, movie, whatever you're working on. So, but I do think I can believe that 50 was on some Hollywood stuff at the time, so I can see that happen.
Fuck all of it. I don't even want man. Cause now I question your character. Any nigga gonna get kick that kind of shit, then man, nigga just say you don't want to do it.
And that's the big piece, and that cuts the clout chasing part because you be like leave that man alone. He don't want to do the verses. He's telling you that it's not about the verses anymore. And I don't think it has been for any time it's come up. And after the initial wave of this conversation, he was being asked by someone in an interview about it. He didn't just go, "Hey, let's do a press conference about this verses I want to do." He wasn't doing that. So now he's saying, "No, I don't want to do it. I don't want to stand next to him." So if he's telling you that, and I'm still getting at him, it's not about I'm trying to get you in the verses. I'm cloud chasing or doing whatever. I am. Well, let me let him finish.
All the other extra lame ass shit, man, this shit goofy.
So y'all talked about it, you saying, and you went out
Yeah,
there.
years ago. Years ago we spoke about
I
it.
think it'd be a great battle, though. I think,
Man, that shit ain't gonna happen. that shit ain't gonna happen, man.
No.
I don't want to stand on stage with him. I have no interest in standing on stage with that nigga. I don't respect him.
I have no interest in standing on stage with him. I don't respect him. I have no interest because I don't respect you.
Okay, so first,
So that was that. Like I said, that's the when we get into the era, what's happening, because we all know what happened when it first popped off, and Tip just recapped it. I'm not gonna go all the way back to 20. It came out. 50 started like I don't want to do it, and then it had died. I hadn't heard this in years, but again, I think when Tip before let's talk about again. I'm a debunk these. I'm just at 50 to clout chase accusations. We all know Tip stepped away for a couple years to do comedy. I saw some like this whole thing about, and I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on it. Like comedy is hard. There's people that's worked at it for years that you have to work on your craft, your timing, your stories, your writing, all that. He was putting in the work to do it. He wasn't like as unfunny as some people try to say he was. He was funny, but that's a hard craft skill to learn. He was working at it, and this when we get back to this, when he had his special, he didn't say anything about 50 Cent in that special. He didn't say a word about it. He wasn't talking about that verses in his special. He said nothing about that. So, but when people started making the clips, and this gets to a lot of points. The kicking the people while they're down, the troll nature of Boo Boo Jackson, always in other people's business, always having something to say, miserable, just negative person that he is, had to say something. He had to say something. He had to say it. Like he made a comment on it, and again, that's just he's a miserable person. Tip didn't mention him. Tip didn't ask for that. So I'm sure he had that in the back of his head, back of his mind, when whatever he decided to get back into music. But when he came back, he didn't say anything about him directly. He dropped his music. He dropped Let Him Know. And that was it. And that was it. So, but 50 didn't let it go. So you draw the line from. So I think once Let 'Em Know starts to bubble, the messy folks in the media and other people. And again, I think he didn't just go like he said. I'm not out here like he didn't hold a press conference and say I want to do a versus with 50. They started asking him about it again, especially after the Goofy made the comment that he did about this unsolicited, the just clowning of the show that was not even correct or accurate to begin with. So that's what really kicked this off. So he's still talking about it. He being Tip. When they ask him about it, we always ask people to be transparent, to be, when you're doing interviews, we want you to speak truth and just answer questions. He did. There was nothing that he said at all that warranted Boo Boo to go do what he did. It just, there was nothing about that warranted what he did. And that brings us to today. I'm not going to. I'm gonna give you a quick rundown of this last week because I want to save some of this last week for my conversation with OTS Mike. But I'm gonna give a high level overview of it. I am. I'm gonna do a little. I'm gonna play a little. I'm gonna play some snippets.
You said y'all got to go in.
Yeah. Let's go back. So let's take them out. I want to hear Wallow right now. Now, so when it finally got to the point where Boo Boo started posting pictures of the unflattering picture, let's knock off the shit of he just posted a picture and y'all assumed it was like we know exactly what this fool was getting at, what he was doing, what he was trying to say. Let's not do that. And the minute he did it, the Harris family was activated at that point. And this is where I want to spend a bunch of time again with Mike on this, how just the fact that his sons, even like him and Tip and King have had problems, but every family has problems. Every parent and their kid, you have problems, but they don't have Marquise and Boo Boo problems. They don't have those same kind of problems. The fact that they obviously have started to mend and talk about their issues before that, but they still love each other. They're still his pops. They're still his son. You mess with my moms, you mess with my dad. We together. Like when like me and you might have problems, but I ain't gonna let nobody else talk about you. Nobody else can say anything about you. We're family. And Boo Boo doesn't have that. And this isn't me talking anything about his deceased mom and grandmom. I'm not doing that. But he doesn't have a wife. He doesn't have that type of family nucleus that he's created outside of the people that he's unfortunately lost. And I'm gonna draw another parallel again. That's the Aubrey effect. That's why they're so close. I think that's why they are fond of each other, because neither one of them have that family nucleus. They just don't. They both got one little kid, one little son that they're hoping that won't turn on them, and both of them are eventually going to turn on both of them. But they hate the things that they don't have. And the bet, like I said, I posted a picture, and I should have put it up here. Tip's biggest diss to 50 is that family picture he can post. Well, everybody, with the boys, the girls, the young ones, like everybody. That's his biggest flex in this. And that's the thing, 50, he can't counter that. He can post all the memes and that's the thing, because he's not gonna make any music. But the meme thing, and then the talented Harris family King is tearing his head off on IG and online every time he posts something, and that's usually where fit because that's the only place he wins because he doesn't make music anymore. I'm still waiting on him to respond to Fab, by the way. You can respond to Mano and Dave and Jim if you want to, but you need to respond. I know you're not gonna to Fab, but he responds with he goes to Twitter, he goes to IG, and every time he posts something on either one of them, King is pow. It's like in spades. You throw out so he trumps him every time, and I said that on purpose because that's 50's boy. He beats him every time. So he's getting beat on all fronts, every front. Tip hammering him with the music, and if you try to go online, King there online. And then I was waiting on Damani. Damani is super talented. I've been listening to Damani's music for years now. I was waiting on him. And he came today again. While I started recording this, he dropped his meet the Grams moment. That Miss Jackson, and I knew once this started that Miss Jackson, Outkast Miss Jackson was gonna pop up at some point. And it did, and I'm glad Damani was the one to use it because that fits his MO, fits his style, fits what he does. But it's just, again, the family flex. Like, we stand together. Tip didn't need either one of them to beat 50. Tip funny enough, savvy enough, smart enough, but the fact that he has his boys, he has his family there is part of the narrative of why they putting belt to 50's ass. Putting belt to boo-boos at. Like, that's why they're doing it. And that's why it's fun to watch because they're doing it as a family. And that's part of the reason why I think Curtis is miserable. And I feel bad for him for that. I feel sorry for him for that. I think the reason part of his miserable nature is because of how he had to grow up, because he didn't have a father, because of how his mom treated him, and because he lost his grandmother. And because he doesn't have a relationship with, I think part of that led to him not having a relationship with Marquise anymore. I'm not a therapist, not a psychologist, but got common sense. I can see it. I've dealt with a lot of those issues myself. Makes you do certain things. Makes you a certain type person. And like King told Boo Boo, he said, you can have all the money in the world, and people act like that's, again, the clout chase thing. T.I. got about as much money as Curtis has. He can't do that little bro thing with him. But like King told him, you can have all that money, but if don't nobody love you, if you don't have anybody that you love that you can share it with, what difference does it make? And this is King Harris saying that. The voice of reason in this situation was King Harris. We all know how we felt about King leading up to this. King's won everybody over. Anybody with sense, he won them over. So I'm in closing until we get back on this with OTS Mike. I am, and I'm gonna save the music. I was gonna play a little bit of the music to this. I don't even think I have to do that. I think we've done enough. I'm not usually for people talking about deceased family members, but 50's done so much. The way he talks about Irv Gotti, he don't care that, like, Irv Gotti has family, Irv Gotti has friends, Irv Gotti has people that care about him, and 50 does not care what he says about him at all. He has not cared about how he's treated people, talked to people. I would have a little bit more remorse for him if he wasn't the type of person that he is. He deserves every bit of what he's getting, and then some. If Tip drops a diss record for the next 2 weeks, I'm here for it. If he keeps posting stuff and King keeps digging up, and we're gonna talk about that, the paperwork that he posted on it. We're gonna talk more about the fire. We're gonna talk about the trample, because the doc that and it's crazy that I'm pretty sure he put it in his doc how Puff got in trouble with the people getting run over in at Howard. He trampled on 2 women and hit another one himself. So we're gonna talk about that some more. And like I said, the Harris family keeps hammering him. He every time he does something like boom, boom, nope, boom, boom, boom. So yeah, sorry, sorry, boo boo. Um, it's not looking good for you, man. And I hope you get everything that's coming to you, like whatever you deserve. I'm not speaking any negative on you. Just like you saying, whatever you deserve, I hope you get every piece of it. Shout out to the Harris family, man. King, Damani, and the King of the South. Tip.